I'm Sam Brodbeck, Assistant Editor at Pensions Insight, and I'm here with Rob Dales, Director at JLT Employee Benefits. Hi Rob.
Good morning.
Asset values and bond yields rose over 2013. What position does that put defined benefit schemes in?
It was a good year for stock markets, but I think a lot of the companies and trustees will find that that's not been the position over the year. Two reasons really. The asset markets that did well were equities, but as we've seen over recent years, schemes have been moving out of equities into safer assets such as bonds and gilts. So they've lost out the benefit of the equity rise there. And despite inflation levels currently at low levels, when you look at the monthly figures, long-term inflation rose quite considerably over the year. And as most pension schemes have got liabilities linked to inflation, that's driven up the liability values generally faster than the asset values have risen.
Are the trustees you speak to more comfortable now than they were this time last year?
I don't think trustees are ever comfortable when they've got defined benefit schemes. There's always something. You have a good year on investments. This time it's inflation that's increased the liabilities. In other years we've had a good year on investment. Longevity's increased liabilities. So it's a difficult time for trustees.
The voluntary code on enhanced transfer values was published back in July 2012. How did that affect activity?
The impact of the code in 2012 was certainly to stop a lot of exercises that were happening at the time and members not being given options that were there. But fortunately it did stop the exercises it was meant to stop, the ones where trustees and companies are running exercises without giving people proper access to advice. So that definitely stopped and we've not seen that re-emerge. So since then the code's achieved what it was meant to achieve. It's brought in a good code and set of practices for schemes to abide by when running exercises. But it did quieten down the market, certainly in 2012.
Is ETV activity back to where it was before the code?
ETV activity now is pretty low, certainly well below 2011 levels. But that's not really as a result of the code. What we've seen is ETVs have all been about setting an enhanced transfer value, so an advisor can recommend to a member it could be in their interest to transfer out. That level you need to reach has been increased materially by changes the FSA at the time, now the FCA, have introduced on the assumptions that need to be used by financial advisors. So because the targets are much higher, you need to be offering greater enhancements for members to transfer out, and it's not as attractive for companies. So we've not seen the big exercises that we saw in 2010, 2011. What we are seeing is more targeted exercises where rather than offering enhancements to all members, companies and trustees, well predominantly companies, are offering enhancements to specific groups of members for whom it may well be in their interests.
We've heard a lot at the moment about the advice gap for defined contribution members. Is there a similar problem in the defined benefit world?
Yeah, I think there is. As you say, we do hear in the papers about defined contribution members reaching retirement and just taking the annuity from the provider and not shopping round where they could get a much higher pension. I think the problem with defined benefit members is they're just taking a pension that the scheme offers, and that's not necessarily a pension suitable for their needs. The pension automatically increases, automatically provides death benefits. Now that might be right for a lot of people, but for some people it might not be. Their needs in retirement may be for a higher pension in the earlier years of retirement when they're more active. They may not need death benefits. Either they haven't got a partner or their partner's got their own pension. But unless things change with defined benefit schemes, then most people are going to be forced into a pension which is not necessarily best for their needs. So I think trustees and companies need to start looking at ways of introducing new options for members, such as pension increase exchange or the opportunity to take a transfer value at retirement. In my experience, trustees are quite nervous about doing this, and they feel that members might be making the wrong decision. But I challenge trustees to say members are not making a decision at all without any options. And the code of good practice, which you referred to earlier, is a good starting point for trustees. So that sets out how a good exercise should be run and what information members should be provided with. So I think trustees and sponsors should start looking at these options and start to look to introduce them for their scheme to provide their members with greater options to provide a retirement income that best meets their needs.